A general, white uniform, but his vest is stained. One of the bloodiest regimes in the world at present is named after him, the Pinochet regime in Chile.
I will not claim that we have already won a complete victory over Marxism.
The spectre of communism, said the Communist Manifesto of 1848. In the meantime, his teachings have spread across the world, to Chile too, where at the moment people of this type are trying to wipe out the ideas of Marxism by physically wiping those who spread these ideas by arresting and imprisoning them.
I will not claim that we have already won a complete victory over Marxism. Marxism is like a spectre. It is difficult to tame it. In fact, it cannot be tamed.
This anti-communist could not guess that the people he was complaining to were themselves communists. As a result of this audience, the general ordered an official missive to be written. Here, the signature and seal of the military adjutant of the President of the Honorable Government Junta, requesting the commandants of the military districts in the north of Chile to aid our camera team in their work. We were instructed to submit this letter of recommendation to the various commandants of the northern military zone. But our plan to film the country and the people in the north was simply a pretext, for we had already been 1973. We knew the bleak desert under the burning sun, the earth scarred by the mining of saltpeter, earth on which no rain falls the whole year through. Our camera should go here again in spring 1974. The world knew that abandoned saltpeter mines were being used by the military junta as concentration camps. This is how we saw the former housing for saltpeter workers on our first journey to the north. And we had made a mental note. This was a concentration camp reality, based on the pitiless exploitation of the country and the people. And now we heard political prisoners were concentrated in such places. It was our aim to find them, our friends, our comrades. Greetings on the orders of the President of the Junta, signed and sealed. But the letter also contained this important sentence, sin visitar de detenidos, that is, without visiting the prisoners. There it was, in black and white. The chief of the junta feared proofs of the concentration camp reality in Chile today. If we were finally successful in producing proof of this reality, it was because this general in Antofagasta could be outwitted. For the journey, a six-seater sports plane, a Piper Cherokee, was hired. Its registration number, KSO, was signaled to the airfields in the north. Our flight permit, also issued by Pinochet's military adjutant, with the formula, greetings on the orders of the President of the Junta. We placed the flight permit and the letter of recommendation back to back in a plastic cover, a well-thought-out arrangement, meaning that both documents could only be read by someone who took the trouble to turn the whole thing over. When we arrived in Antofagasta, the general only glanced at our flight permit. Impressed by the high-ranking origin of the document, he placed himself at our disposal. This was a stroke of luck for us. The clear instruction, without visiting the prisoners, the general simply did not read it.
I'm General Joaquin Lagos, Commander-in-Chief of the troops which operate in this sector, in this area, and Chief of Martial Law in the Antofagasta province. The prison camp was installed in Chacabuco because use could be made there of installations and a settlement which used to be part of a saltpeter mine, now closed down and abandoned.
For more than 35 years, Chacabuco had lain abandoned before the junta gave it a new purpose.
So the installations there could be used. The many houses still standing and other comforts available to us there.
Comforts. The Atacama Desert, which surrounds Chacabuco, is said to be the driest desert in the world. The climate is marked by red-hot heat at midday and icy cold at night. Anybody brought here is shut up in a particularly devilish way by the uncaring embrace of the desert. In Chacabuco, the key in the hand of the camp warder has more a symbolic importance. A carefully selected spot which inflicts physical and mental torture simply by its situation without any assistance.
For this reason, the prisoners are put into the camp. I have to say they must remain there provisionally until proceedings are taken against them.
2 prisoners are taken away to the garrison town, where a military court will determine their sentences, 2 years or 20. This is quite uncertain, since we have news from Chile of completely absurd and arbitrary sentences. Some travel into the unknown. The others remain behind. What have they to expect?
Another group, particularly dangerous ones, are kept there for a certain time, although no charges are made against them, until they finally grasp that the path they have taken is wrong.
Imprisoned for an undefined period with no charges, no trial, no sentence. This parallels the principle of protective custody in the Nazi concentration camps. For those affected, it means complete lack of rights.
Of a party?
No,
How long have you been here?
since September the 19th.
What's your profession?
Mechanical engineer.
Were you a member of a party?
Left sympathizer.
How long have you been here?
I was brought to this camp on December 10th, but to the National Stadium on September 13th.
Where are you from?
From Santiago. I studied there at the Technical University.
Were you a member of a party?
No,
Why are you here?
it's not yet clear what I'm actually charged with. That has still to be clarified.
Renan Gajardo González.
Were you a member of a party?
Sympathizer with the Socialist Party.
How long have you been here?
Since November 9th.
Are you awaiting trial?
We are waiting for our trial finally to start. We are all held here without trial.
Thank you.
Not at all.
Were you a member of a party?
Yes,
Which?
communist.
Are you awaiting trial?
I don't know what sort of trial. I worked, that was all. And they simply took me away to the stadium and then here.
Were you a member of a party?
The MAPU of Workers and Peasants.
How long have you been under arrest?
I've been under arrest since September 22nd.
Are you awaiting trial?
There are no charges. I don't know what I'm accused of and whether I shall be tried, or they'll decide what to do about me.
Where are you from?
I was in the Moneda.
You are a doctor?
I'm a doctor, yes.
Were you a member of a party?
No,
Why are you here?
I was ordered on September the 12th.
And that they brought you here?
Chile Stadium, National Stadium, Chacabuco.
How long do you think you will remain here?
Don't know.
What do you do in the camp at the moment?
Responsible for medical care here in the camp. That means the polyclinic.
Are there many sick?
It's like this. We're looking after a population of 850. We have roughly every day 30 to 40 cases.
Serious cases?
Mainly cases of neuroses, psychic complaints.
What are the symptoms?
The patient suffers from insomnia or shakes. He's nervous.
What's the reason for these complaints?
The situation we're in, that we're imprisoned, and uncertainty about our trials.
I've received declarations from close relations who were there on the visit, and who were completely upset by the propaganda, quite confused by the distortions abroad. They had gone home satisfied, since they had satisfied themselves with the perfect conditions. They're all quite calm here, and that they're really bursting with health, both physically and mentally. After all, that's the most important thing. There in Chacabuco camp, we've tried to provide a maximum of comforts for the persons provisionally held there. You've seen the camp yourself. We've set up workshops there in which these people can work, both for their own good and benefit, and for the well-being of the community.
Here, for the well-being of the community, ashtrays are manufactured from onyx, souvenirs which the gentlemen of the junta give their foreign guests. You are prisoners, but the exploiters cannot do without your hands. Without you, without the working class, not a wheel turns. Your crime is that you had begun to act in Chile according to the lesson of October 1917, that the working class can get along without exploiters. That is why the reactionaries struck on September the 11th, 1973. Why you are under guard today. But your enemies cannot dispense with your hands and your heads. Our camera was not supposed to film the obvious signs of a concentration camp. There was a directive: no watchtowers, no barbed wire, no military personnel. But this exhibition of hand-carved objects was specifically arranged for the camera on the orders of General Lagos. Prisoners' work, done to fill out the torturing time, a form of mental therapy of the will to survive.
What do you do in your free time?
I carve things in wood, and I help my companions this way. The carvings in relief are done with nails, sharp nails, or even better, with pieces of metal found in the camp. We make tools of them, with various blades and points, and these are the things we make.
You know, there are fine ensembles here, many excellent artists. On Christmas Eve, for instance, there was a Christmas celebration, both for believers and non-believers. Everybody took part. It was a religious festival for all confessions. You will find there a choir for masses and for hymns, for songs, just like, well, a Christmas celebration. Villancicos, it's called here, something wonderful. The ensembles that you encounter there and the artistic achievements shown are very moving. They fill your soul with joy.
Artistic achievements which even fill the general with joy, perhaps with a certain pride at having arrested and imprisoned so much talent. We were also permitted to film a religious service, which is attended in Chacabuco not only by the members of the various confessions. The religious events make it possible to come together and to testify together. Here the song about the Passion of Christ is a message in code, tidings about the sufferings of the best sons of the people. The precentor is a children's doctor, Comrade Manuel y Pinza. Under the Allende government, he looked after the creches and nursery schools.
para eso he venido yo, para eso he venido al mundo, a dar el testimonio de la verdad y el amor.
And the earth did quake, and the veil of the temple was rent in twain. Angel Parra wrote the sacred secular cantata as a prisoner in Chacabuco for the congregation of prisoners, many of whom had reached the camp via the National Stadium in Santiago, and seen there by a hidden camera, which gave us pictures of a contemporary passion.
Madre del nuevo Pilato, comunicado judío, aquí tenéis este hombre, yo no le encuentro delito. Crucifícale, 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 crucifícale. Los soldados se reparten la túnica y los vestidos, a los dados se los juegan, hacen leña del caído.
41 small negatives exposed from a hiding place, a high-lying apartment near the National Stadium, with a lens with a focal length of 1,000 millimeters. This made a secret glimpse possible, and the visual result corresponded with what witnesses had testified. In the National Stadium in Santiago, people were beaten, and beaten to death. Prisoners were given electric shocks, were tortured with fascist brutality. Is this naked man being taken away or brought back? And if he is being taken away, did he ever return? Where are they taking this man with a blanket over his head? The stadium in Santiago witnessed every day not just torture and killing, but also straightforward firing squads. Martyrdom on film, the secret observation of a scene in which the hangman thought they were unseen. When the camp gate at Chacabuco opened for our camera, the camp commandant, that is him there, was always along. Our path through the camp, prescribed, always escorted. Anybody who is taken along here cannot learn what is happening at the same time here or here. One day we shall learn where the interrogations and tortures took place in Chacabuco, where the windowless cells lay. The prisoners will bear witness against the efforts made by the junta to present the camp world they have created as something humanitarian. They already did this shortly after the coup d'etat. While murder and slaughter ruled under the stands in the National Stadium, the international press were taken in October 1973 on a conducted visit, which gave a lying picture of the touching care of the soldiery for the well-being of their wards. The host, the commandant of the stadium concentration camp, today responsible for all the political prisoners of the military junta.
Yo soy coronel de ejército, Jorge Espinosa.
I'm an army colonel, and my name is Jorge Espinosa. I usually work in the personnel department of our institution. Immediately after the events of the 11th of September, I was charged with this mission, and since then I've held this post. You've seen that. I do my work here for our compatriots and also for the foreign citizens we have detained. Allow me to show you a few tables, and I believe that I've thus found the most objective, the most convincing and the clearest form to give you a certain overall picture of what we are doing here, what is really happening in the National Stadium. First of all, we have a statistical table. This shows the general situation, the numerical composition of the camp. Here are registered the number of prisoners held in the camp. And here on the 20th, the 28th, and the 30th, that was the date, the 30th, when the curve rose to 5,000. 5,369 persons, the highest figure.
5.369 ciudadanos.
This shows what there is to eat in the course of the day. There is a certain choice, but I don't think I need to explain that more thoroughly. But this is important, the dietetic value of all the foodstuffs. And this is strictly supervised by the competent body, the military hospital. And it's also strictly supervised by a commission from the International Red Cross.
It must have been quite a sanatorium, this stadium concentration camp, in which the daily rations were calculated on a dietetic basis.
And on this last table here, we show how many articles of clothing we have distributed here to people who arrived here with regard to their clothes, very scantily dressed. These are the numbers of shirts and trousers, blue jeans and pairs of shoes, masses of toothbrushes and soap, and so on, everything they got from us. These things here, for instance, were devoted alone to the accommodation here. No fewer than 7,733 blankets, for instance, and such things, and mattresses too, but we don't have space for one single mattress more. That is to say, there is no room, that we can't because of the floor space. You must understand that in quarters like this, we only have very limited possibilities, and anyway the people here are only temporarily detained. I think that should be enough for you.
The concentration camp colonel chats away and even jokes when he comments on the way that the Swedish ambassador made efforts to get prisoners out of the stadium and give them asylum in Sweden. And here, the directional microphone caught a remark which, 30 years after the end of the Nazi regime, makes your blood run cold.
People came here from Europe, mostly from the Scandinavian countries. They wanted to take people from here because they've got to improve their race, renew it. By proper selection and breeding, they've got to create a new race with fresh blood. They don't worry if the people they get are perhaps extremists. They need it, this injection, you see. Incredible. Incredible, isn't it?
A racial expert, a real fascist. For him, Victor Jara, for instance, Chilean folk singer, was an extremist and thus disposable. Tortured, murdered under his command. But he presents to the public statistics on trousers and toothbrushes, even permits a look at the operation theatre in which prisoners with bad wounds and burns from electric shocks are treated. But since these pictures are the only authentic evidence from the stadium concentration camp, and since every smooth attempt to explain things goes awry, for this reason the junta finally gives the order without visiting the prisoners. So the commandant of Chacabuco should not even have staged this scene for our camera, the camp street as a boulevard. And President Allende's doctor should not have been allowed to speak and give us the picture of a man who has proven himself under the hardest conditions.
Chile Stadium, National Stadium, Chacabuco.
This they were taken and are still taken from their beds, arrested at work and dragged away, captured in the open street. Like this they were and are crammed into lorries under the jackboots. Wearing what they happened to wear when arrested, they sit here today in Chacabuco in one of the 151 concentration camps in Chile. Military regulations lay down that the guards must wear a neck protector because of the sun, but not every prisoner when arrested had a hat or a cap with him, something which is vital in Chacabuco. When Colonel Espinosa sent the prisoners away, equipped with a blanket and a toothbrush, to the Atacama Desert, with its searing days and icy nights, this was done with the devilish knowledge that in Chacabuco, even without the application of physical violence, you die a little every day. To live down there with no knowledge how long it will last and not to give up, to wash your only shirt in rationed water, this demands high morale, both individually and collectively, the will to be the stronger behind bars too. The first and the most important task for those confined in Chacabuco today is to survive. Too many have fallen, been murdered, recovered from rivers as unknown corpses, found mutilated on the railway lines. The junta cannot kill them all. All those to be seen in this film have been noted. These 6 too marched out of the picture under close guard. There are witnesses for each one, and the blood of the victims will be upon the heads of the murderers. In Chacabuco, there are men enough who could later write the story of this camp.
I worked for the paper La Nación. That was our official government paper. And then I worked for the radio of the State Technical University. That's where I was when they arrested me.
I was finally a reporter at the radio of the Technical University. I was director of Radio Luis Emilio Recabarren in Santiago.
I was reporter on El Siglo.
I was director of the paper Clarín.
Alberto Gamboa, director of the paper with the biggest circulation in the years of the Unidad Popular, here as prisoner in the National Stadium, October 1973.
I was reporter on Últimas Noticias, and when I was arrested, I was in the grounds of the State Technical University.
Sub-editor on the papers Última Hora and Puro Chile, and responsible for the public relations of the Education Ministry.
I worked for Crónica in Concepcion and the Journalists Institute at the University of Concepcion.
I was news editor of Clarín when they arrested me.
So far, there's been no indictment. It's the same for all of us. We have been imprisoned for 5 months, but none of us tried.
Till today, I know absolutely nothing. Like all of us, I was given no information in connection with my arrest. I was also arrested on the 12th, right in the morning in the Technical University. I was there as a reporter. Naturally, I'd been reporting on everything that happened there. And then suddenly on the morning of the 12th, they collected us, together with 400 to 500 people.
I was also arrested on the 12th, and I've had no charges either. And as I hear, all the other prisoners here are in the same situation.
I was arrested a day later on September the 13th, at home in the night. The reason, that I don't know. And so far, there have been no charges against me.
I've not been interrogated yet.
It's the same in my case. Though I've been held here for 5 months, I don't know what I'm accused of. And naturally, like everybody else here, I don't have a lawyer who could defend me if I should perhaps be accused of ill-doing.
I've been in prison since September 12th. They grabbed me with many colleagues at the Technical University, and I too don't know why I've been here for nearly 5 months.
They are making a wall newspaper. Apart from announcements of the commandant for the prisoners, this is allowed to contain reports on everyday events in camp and non-committal stories. Politics are not allowed. But what constitutes politics? Under what circumstances? What can be politics?
What is the title of the paper you issue?
Quite simple, Chacabuco 73, since 73 was the year of our arrest. And the aim and intention is to provide information for all our comrades in the camp, and particularly about the creative spirit which many of us have shown in prison, including a number of real talents, and generally as an activating factor to urge people not to spend their time in camp wailing, to strengthen the morale of the comrades so that it's easier for us to bear our stay here. We can make less severe the suffering which imprisonment brings for each of us.
In addition, we carry Very often, articles about people doing something special here. For instance, we regularly interview some comrades. For instance, doctors who have operated on comrades right here in the camp, because it was necessary and the operations have been successful. We have here several doctors of international fame, and we have to see to it that everybody learns what they know and what they can do, their abilities, what they have done, what their achievements were in their whole lives. For all of us, we are prisoners. We just sit in camp, and none of us can see our families. None of us are in touch with them.
This message means that amongst the prisoners there is a category completely isolated from the outside world. These comrades are allowed neither to receive visitors nor write letters. For them, Chacabuco is a camp of silence.
Another thing worth mentioning. It's so important and significant, you have to hear it. We have a few comrades who only learn to read and write here in camp, and they work with us on our newspaper. For us, they are just colleagues, as though they had always worked for the press. I recall that we asked one of them to write something for our paper, and we published this article from this comrade who only learned to read and write here. And the first thing he wrote was a letter to his wife.
Correo, the post office. In the meantime, we know that this post box is barred for many of the prisoners, and that for one prisoner who was allowed to use it, this was his first written word, thanks to the solidarity of his comrades, given despite the forced detention.
At the moment, I'm the deputy commandant and thus represent our commandant. He is still doing something else in Antofagasta.
What are your rank and name?
Captain of the Army Alejandro Avila Arizon.
How many prisoners are there in the camp?
866 are held here.
When was it opened?
It was in October 73.
What was here earlier?
Years ago, it was a saltpeter mine. The owners who worked it, they came from England. That was from 26 and went on until 38.
The world of saltpeter. Here, Chilean workers, toiling for alien masters, suffered the bitterest exploitation. But here, too, these workers formed themselves into the working class, because their sufferings and struggles taught them their situation. Chacabuco today. They are not simply campaigning against the fighters of the Unidad Popular, but also against proletarian history, signs of which arise here from the soil like stones grow in a field. Pablo Neruda called these men comrades of the spade, in whose breast the acid bites and the murderous vapors.
What's that, Liz?
Something like a memorial. It's from Chacabuco here. The handle of a spade, used here in the camp. Many years ago, we don't know when, with the tag of a miner who worked here, with his name on it.
The remains of a spade found in Chacabuco, and a tag, Vargas Espinosa Justo, number 16608, day laborer, single. One of those who was here.
It was found here, and I think it speaks for itself. It can be interpreted in many ways.
Santiago, spring 1973, the Luis Emilio Recabarren Museum. This comrade is wearing the badge of the Socialist Unity Party, souvenir of a visit to the German Democratic Republic. What he showed us then in this revolutionary museum has since been destroyed, only exists on this film.
In this museum, we show the clothes and the tools of the workers on the Pampa. From those years when the saltpeter was extracted by hand, very primitively. The workers wore... It's enormously hot there. They held a hammer like this in their hands every day, knocking the hard saltpeter rock to pieces. They had the quantity that was demanded every day. The caramayola made quite simply from tin plate. We always took our water in that, out to work in the pampa. It doesn't hold much, but it had to suffice for the morning and the afternoon until evening. Here we have a rather small shoe. A lot of children were working then, and this one here was in the mine at 6. There weren't any schools, and they just had to work. I myself was 7 when I went to work for the first time. And that is the stocks they locked us in. You were tied up. It was the usual punishment for workers, up to 4 days sometimes. Just because they had given the patron a dirty look or answered back loudly, that was enough. On these pictures, you see the bosses of the pampa, the foreman and the paymaster. They were all Chileans. And to be honest, we hated them more than all the rest, because it was they who mistreated the people, more than the exploiters from England and Germany, who were the real exploiters. But these here were the ones who maltreated the workers. This is a meeting of the Socialist Workers' Party. This was on May Day, 1913. There are many of the lads who worked in the pampa then, and I'm among them. Here, this one. Still young, I was just 14. 1 year later, in 1914, I joined the Socialist Workers' Party.
It was found here, and I think it speaks for itself. It can be interpreted in many ways.
Spring 1973, mining saltpeter. Mineral resources were nationalized by the government of the Unidad Popular. Comrade Eloy Ramirez.
So I came up to the north. It must have been about 1913, during the First War in Europe. I was just 8 when I came here. 8 years old. My father brought me to the saltpeter pampa of Caputilla. I sold newspapers here, the daily La Correspondencia. It came from Caputilla to here, in the pampa. It reported a lot about the War of 14. And then came the revolution of 1917. I don't know why, but for me, when I heard the news, I simply felt sympathy for the Russians. For how they had made the revolution. I felt real sympathy for them, for the workers' movement that they had, although I was very young then. And then my father sent me to work, because at that time in the saltpeter company settlements, there were only very small schools, 3 forms, that was all. Nothing else. I couldn't go. When my father sent me to work, I was just 9. Everywhere there was blasting, and they did it to clear the rocks away. And I had to crawl into the blasting hole with a little spade they gave me. The whole day through, from the morning. Early at 6 o'clock I got up and went off barefoot. No shoes. So I stalked off with my bag over my shoulder. My arms crossed. I was so cold. My eyes were full of tears, nose running, but my legs kept going. Off to work. I only earned 20 pesos and 80 centavos then. Later I learned to read and write. I was determined to learn something right. So I went to school, always after work. The señorita was my teacher then. She taught me. She taught me my first letters. And later, I continued my education in our workers' organization. In the trade union which I joined, it was called then, that was the Workers' Union of Chile, founded by Comrade Luis Emilio Recabarren. And there I learned. Learned a lot. Then I began to work, got relations with the workers. And they elected me their representative. For them, I was a bit more, I knew a bit more. So I became their union leader. So I worked in the Pampa, pounding the saltpeter. Pounding, we called it. We did it with a hammer and the size. It weighed at least 25 pounds. And you pounded these great lumps with it until they were small, but that size, about this size. And then we had to load them on carts. For instance, on such carts. And after a day of work like that, you were completely finished, bleached out to the bone. Every day you were limp, dead, tired, exhausted. And then you got home. You went home, washed yourself. Nobody had a bath. We took a bowl, we washed in that. There was nothing else. Then you lay down at home, in your room, exhausted, tired out, and then went off to work again the next day. That's what things were like. Formerly, we worked under conditions like that. There wasn't any social legislation here. Nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. If somebody had an accident at work, cut off his finger, then his finger was gone. Or cut off his hand, then his hand was simply gone. And when they blasted the saltpeter, then lumps of rock sailed through the air like a volcano exploding. You had to watch out and run quickly. If a lump hit you, you were done for. Just done for. That was life here.
Comrade Eloy Ramirez works the rector. On the day of the fascist putsch, he will be arrested and banished to the village of Putre, 4,000 meters high on the Bolivian frontier.
It was found here, and I think it speaks for itself. It can be interpreted in many ways.
Reliquia Nacional, that means national memorial. The Unidad Popular declared the abandoned saltpeter mine of Santa Laura to be a national monument. It could have been Chacabuco. Those who once worked here were also prisoners, imprisoned in the bonds of wage slavery. Nobody lived in the arid deserts of the north. Only those came here who earned their bread through saltpeter. When the mine was closed, all life died in the area around. The old people who remained had been through much, for whenever the saltpeter miners struggled to improve their lot, the capitalists marched out their armed forces, and there was murder and death in the Pampa.
We'll tell you how it was at San Antonio and Coruna with the bloodbath. A lot of miners came together from the whole area, South Canton and North Canton, from San Antonio too. Then it started. We wanted to go to Paposo to a demonstration, speak up there. Then along came a general from the Granaderos. Our column was stopped and we couldn't go on, because down in the valley there were 8 cannon. Then the next day, the soldiers started shooting. Their cannon, they were standing in Paposo mine. They aimed direct at San Antonio, ready to fire. And they had some up at the top too. There were 8 of these beasts up there. Cannons from Krupp, Germany, 7.5s, with barrels like that. They fired several salvos, at Coruna. In the meantime, reinforcements had reached Coruna, men from Felisa, miners on mules with revolvers and dynamite. But what's that against regiments? Nothing at all. So they felt themselves defeated, beaten and defeated. The mine canteen closed. The people were half dead for hunger. They stormed the canteen and killed the keeper because he wouldn't give them anything. And there, in the canteen of the Coruna company, there he was, Carrido. He was the leader. Russian-wise, on a black horse, red cap. He led us. He led us all, the workers. There were many there, many hundreds and thousands who perished up there in San Antonio. In Coruna was a certain Don Francisco Caceres, rest in peace, the worst criminal. He had the people dragged from their houses, always at 8 in the evening, and just to slaughter them. He dragged them up one of the mountains of San Antonio on a cliff and pushed them over. That's my report on the Coruna Mining Company and those who died through it, the many thousands. May they rest in peace. The end, that's all.
Back in 1924 or 1925, a group of the Communist Party was formed in the Maruzia mine. And soon, they occupied Maruzia. It happened at 5:30 in the morning, just at the right moment when there was nobody in the office yet, in Rosario de Huera. And when they woke up, they immediately sent for the cavalry on forced march from Arica. But we had already started fighting in Maruzia. They were shooting in Maruzia, shooting in Huara, and later in Carana too, where my comrade lived. They shot until many of the people of Huara were hit, and they carried them away in carts. The blood flowed in streams from the carts, a terrible sight, and they threw them in the well, where they still lie, our comrades. And why? Just because that gang wouldn't give bread for us and our children. Their boss didn't want it. He wanted us to stay poor. That's what I have to report from the strike here in 25. I was a mule driver on the tips. In the night, at 12 or around 1, they dragged the fathers of families out of the houses. You could hear the children crying everywhere. These men were never seen again. Opposite Rosario Huara, there's a cross. They call it Cross of May. Round there are a lot of corpses. Our comrades. In Huara, too.
There is a stern silence over the land, over the crosses of the nameless ones, over the graves of the bloodied victims of the past and the present. This land is not yet delivered. Reliquia Nacional, National Memorial, reminder of exploitation and bloody massacre. Reliquia Nacional, view of part of Chacabuco saltpeter mine, today a concentration camp, carved by this prisoner. His initials, F.C.H.R. The back of the carving was painted with tar, which shows signs of weathering. The flank was a piece of building wood, wood from Chacabuco. The carving was offered for sale by the guards and is today in the GDR. Planning hell, they studied the map of the country until they discovered this salty prison, the walls of loneliness. That is what Pablo Neruda wrote about this place called Pisagua. Never shall I forget your dead coast, where the soiled bite of the hostile sea attacks the walls of torment, and where the bulwarks rise on high as bare and devilish mountains. Pisagua. That is a reminder of the political struggles in Chile at the end of the 1940s.
This is the concentration camp of Pisagua. They brought us here with the first group of about 400 banished people, all from the Salpita Pampa, in a train which crossed the entire desert. There, on these slopes, they had dug 5 machine gun nests. Thus, they had the whole area under control and could hold us back, us in the concentration camp. To the next village, it's about 40 kilometers, otherwise only desert. Those were 15 months of martyrdom. I arrived with the first group and left with the last. They brought us here by train and took away the last group with a launch. And today, 25 years later, is the first time I've come back to this place.
It was in spring 1973 that this witness showed us Pisagua, the houses and huts in which they were held. There are few contemporary records. During a hunger strike, the comrades in one hut protested with this poster, Villa Ley Maldita, House of the Accursed Law. The accursed law that had made Pisagua a concentration camp. A law made during the period of office of President Gabriel González Videla, who came to office in 1946 with the support of a broad anti-fascist democratic movement. The communists, too, participated in his government. González Videla, here in spring 1973, will be noted in future Chilean history books as the traitor president. In Pablo Neruda's work, he has been branded as a rat who crawled aloft on the shoulders of the people. For after he had taken office, he became one of the keenest cold warriors in Latin America, a devoted lackey of U.S. imperialism. The communists of Chile fought hard against this betrayal and demanded emphatically that Chile should be independent of the U.S. monopolies.
And that created problems for me of the gravest nature, particularly in copper production, the exploitation of the copper mines, which were in American hands. The Communist Party did not give up when I refused, so they had to be forced to leave the government, and this came about with the coal strike.
Para conjurar tal tremendo peligro.
To counter this danger, I immediately mobilized the forces of public security and had the mines surrounded. In the course of the evacuation, it was possible to arrest about 500 to 600 communists, whom I had taken to Pisagua in the north of Chile, a harbor. The intention was to isolate them from the population.
Pero para terminar con la influencia, el trastorno.
But in order to end their influence, the disturbances which the Communist Party created in the country, I decided to ask the National Congress to pass a law which would enable me to break the activities of the Communist Party, both in the trade unions and in politics. To this end, we made a law entitled Law for the Defense of Democracy. And with the help of this law, this party was strictly banished from public activities. For the next 5 years. That meant that for the period of 5 years, the members lost their civil rights. During these 5 years, they were not entitled to take part in elections. The law was unfortunately somewhat later. It was later rescinded. Another head of government was elected, and ending the law was his election slogan, and so he rescinded it. Otherwise, we would never have got into the bad situation in which we are at present, not if this law had remained.
If you were president of Chile again today, would you take the same measures as you did then?
Then I'd do more. I would do that, and I think others would too. Our whole country, our democratic, upright country, would desire such measures. There would be a new Pisagua, and there would be the law for the defense of democracy to tame the communists. I'm quite sure about that.
The first group of prisoners with whom we could make contact. Our sound recording had not yet begun when the scene suddenly changed. At first we thought they were soldiers being drilled, but then learnt that they were prisoners of a special category. They are exclusively young comrades who have to march and sing martial songs. Our camera is not supposed to see them. They are ordered back. We shall meet them once again. A secret shot is successful. But speaking with them, this was strictly barred.
How long in Pisagua?
Since December 6, 1973.
Were you a member of a party?
Yes, member of the Communist Party.
When were you brought to Pisagua?
December the 6th.
Are you a member of a party?
Yes, senor.
Which?
Communist Party. Member of the Communist Party.
Were you a member of a party?
In the Socialist People's Union, USOPO.
How long have you been here?
Since September 24th.
Were you in the Communist or Socialist Party?
No, senor.
Why are you here?
Like many, I'm in preventive detention till charges are made.
Mi nombre es Carlos, nombre completo. Carlos Patricio Prieto Pavés.
Were you a member of a party?
No, independent.
How long have you been here?
I've been here in Pisagua since October 4th, 1973, here in this camp.
Alberto Lorenzo López Pérez.
Were you a member of a party?
Sympathizer with the Socialist Party.
Mi nombre es Dr. Vladislav Kuzmisic Calderón.
Were you a member of a party?
No, I was never a member, not in any party.
How long in Pisagua?
Since November 30th.
José Steinberg Montes.
Were you a member of a party?
No, I was never a member of a party. Belonged to the independent left.
And you are here as a prisoner?
In detention as long as they make inquiries about me.
Why are you here?
Well, I assume they're investigating me because I once attended a course on sport medicine in Cuba. And this fact, that makes me highly suspect, as you might say. Perhaps I did something else and studied something different. I went to Cuba in October last year for 1 month. And we went there to attend a course on sport medicine. In Iquique, where we do our jobs as doctors, there was a plan. They just decided on a plan for sports training for all. And for that, we should make medical studies. That's why they sent us to Cuba for a month.
Por eso se mandó a estudiar durante un mes a Cuba.
Adolfo Aranda Ponce.
How long in Pisagua?
Since December the 11th.
How do you spend your time here?
The best way to spend time is to get out in the open air and do something so that you don't think too much about what may still await us.
Were you a member of a party?
I was in the Radical Party, and at the end I was a trade union official till they brought me here on December 11th last year.
What's your job?
Welder.
viento que se va. Adiós, adiós, adiós. Mi caro regimiento, llegó la hora del adiós. Y al partir juramos todos, conservaremos la...
The daily round in Pisagua resembles that in a Chilean barracks. González Videla, the traitor president, had been satisfied with internment, but the chief of the junta ordered blind discipline. And there is yet another contrast between then and now. At that time, only members of the Communist Party were sent into banishment. Here, a group of comrades on the last day of imprisonment. Today, apart from communists, there are socialists, radical Democrats and left-wing Christians, as well as their sympathizers. Indirectly, an expression of the weakness of the fascist military dictatorship. Today, a cross-section of the entire population is imprisoned, but the military junta cannot place the entire nation behind prison walls.
Leonor Álvarez Reyes.
Were you a member of a party?
No, not yet any.
How long have you been here?
Since November the 23rd.
How long will you have to remain?
As long as the commandant orders.
How long have you been here?
Nearly 3 months now.
Were you a member of a party?
Sympathizer through my work.
When do you think you will be released?
I don't know, senor.
Are you a member of a party?
Member of the Communist Party.
When were you arrested?
December the 20th.
How long will you have to stay here?
How should I know? Those who brought us here will decide. Perhaps even the military council.
How's the food? Good?
No, no, not at all.
What's your name?
Nadia Garcia.
How long have you been here?
Since December the 6th.
Were you a member of a party?
Yes, member of the Communist Party.
How long have you been here? Senorita, how long have you been here?
Me? Since December the 22nd.
Were you a member of a party?
No.
How long must you stay here?
No idea.
How long have you been here?
Also since December the 22nd, senor.
Were you a member of a party?
Yes, senor.
How long must you stay here?
I don't know, senor.
Elianira Escobar.
Were you a member of a party?
Sympathizer with the party.
What's your name?
Patricia Pizarro Letelier.
How long have you been here?
I was brought to the camp on November the 15th, 1973.
Were you a member of a party?
No, the only organization I belonged to was a left student league.
Thank you.
Witnesses who have escaped from Chile testified that female prisoners were raped by the guards. Pisagua, 1974. Young comrades are marched into the prison, which had been cleared of criminals in September 1973. The group is entirely isolated. During our hours in Pisagua, it was possible to get one picture. This one of physical torture on the boulders of the slope. No contact, no conversation, and thus the certainty that these young prisoners are being given special treatment. prisioneros de guerra. That means prisoners of war. But they are not prisoners of war, they are political prisoners. The military junta insists presumptuously that Chile is in a state of internal warfare. This is a transparent attempt to justify the suspension of the Chilean constitution and the constant breach of normal human rights. Listen to CIA agent Federico Willoughby, official spokesman of the junta.
This state of internal warfare in which we find ourselves permits our authorities to move people from one place to another. And those who are in this situation have been detained, but are not prisoners. There are simply people who have been banished to specific places.
Mr. Press Secretary, why does the government junta forbid representatives of the public to visit the prison camps?
You ask me why we don't allow people to visit those detained. I think that our actions are governed by certain considerations of a humane nature. I find it simply frightful to observe somebody who is suffering. I don't like that a person should be displayed in the uncomfortable situation of a prisoner. I think that this would infringe his dignity.
The leading representatives of the concentration camp regime worry about human dignity. And the story that there are prison camps behind such signs is just a Marxist invention.
Now a few words on the term prison camp, which is used so often. This is a term, the word prison camp, an invention of the Marxists.
The camps exist and are filled, but the regime still feels surrounded by enemies.
I think that our enemy works in two fields. I would say that the work of the right hand of the enemy is to line up behind the political groups, behind the non-Marxists. This hand tries to win the solidarity of all non-Marxists, to bring together the non-Marxist political elements in one front. And the task of the left hand of our enemy is the direct preparation of a rising in our country. The necessary funds are being collected, efforts are made to obtain weapons, people are being selected and trained as guerrillas. It is a conflict of intelligences. And we are in a position that may be compared to the position you need for a pleasant shave. We let the stubble grow, because you then only need a soft shave and the beard is gone.
Para después afeitar suavemente y no dejar nada. Tampoco digo yo que se haya triunfado.
I will not claim that we have already won a complete victory over Marxism. Marxism is like a spectre. It is difficult to tame it. In fact, it cannot be tamed. When the movement of the 11th of September began to take effect, the Marxists vanished. They went underground somewhere, to use a word that they often use. But they keep on working. And I'm certain that before long, they will again present us with problems. Problems for which we must be prepared, in order to get them under our control.
The self-appointed father of the country and his works. New buildings in Pisagua, the traditional place of banishment. Benevolent preparations for further waves of arrests.
To the fighters in the concentration camps. You, scarce to be reached, buried in concentration camps, cut off from every human word, subjected to mistreatment, beaten down but not refuted, vanished but not forgotten. Little we hear about you, but we hear you are incorrigible. Unteachably, they say, you are loyal to the proletarian cause, stubbornly convinced that there are still two sorts of men, exploiters and exploited, and that only class struggle can liberate from misery the mass in town and country. Neither beating nor hanging, we hear, can make you say that twice 2 is now 5. So you are banished, but not forgotten, beaten down, but not refuted, fighting on together with all the incorrigibles, unteachably clinging to truth, remaining the real leaders of Chile.
These here have recently begun to call themselves the supreme leaders of the nation, and have arrogated the right to order the imprisoned Chilean patriots to sing daily the national anthem as a measure of re-education. Traitors to the nation as teachers of patriotism. This is really making twice 2 equal 5. And now their ears are ringing, for the song from the depths becomes an anthem of resistance.